creating out of the box JFashion media.
Yep.
So just a little bit about who we are. My name is Hayden. I use he, him pronouns.
My name's Kamilah. I use she, her pronouns. And this is the two hosts of O-kei podcast, which is a once monthly JFashion podcast. We usually talk about news and important JFashion topics, and later on have a special interview guest every month. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud. To find out more, you can go to our website, o-kei-podcast.com.
Just a little bit more about ourselves.
Yeah, and so me, Kamilah, I'm also the creator of Hardecora, which is an illustration and apparel brand. I also graduated from Columbia College Chicago in 2014 for illustration. I'm currently Chicago-based. I also work on a comic strip with Decora Demon on Instagram, showcasing 2 Decora kids.
And my name is Hayden. I consider myself an audio storyteller. I've done audio documentaries, audio dramas, podcasts. I majored in radio, also from Columbia College Chicago, and I graduated just last year. So getting into this whole panel, when the general public thinks about fashion media, the main forms of media that come to mind immediately are magazines and fashion shows. We also have those forms of media in the JFashion community. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Fruits magazine. We have our own fashion shows, and there has been a recent resurgence of magazines and zines, both physical and online. For example, Egg magazine has been revived, and Papillon is an American or Western-based gyadu magazine online.
Yeah, and we both think these forms of media are very important and will continue to be popular for our community. But we also think getting out of the box is key for innovation and attracting new people into our culture. And also, we want the JFashion community to be represented accurately. So the more forms of media that we're involved in creating content for, the more accurately we'll be represented when someone wants to do research.
When our community pushes the boundaries of fashion media, we're also helping to push the boundaries of general fashion media as well. So it not only helps our community, but it helps the general fashion sphere also. So in order to begin making out-of-the-box content, you first need to find your medium. In order to do this, I would like you to think about considering a medium that you're already passionate about or something that you want to learn more about, and use that as your base medium, and then try combining it with JFashion. See how you can pull JFashion into that base media. For example, there are musicians like Pinky and Afro Shoujo who combine JFashion with their music. Afro Shoujo does like O-kei, magical girl, kawaii music, and Pinky does kawaii music with her gyadu culture and gyadu community background interspersed and inspired in the lyrics.
Yeah, and then we have Delightful, who combines JFashion and doll customizations. A lot of the doll customizations inspired by JFashion have been Decora oriented, but I've recently seen her delve into Lolita as well. And then there's Lirabelle Goes to Tea, which is a new JFashion podcast that combines JFashion with fiction and audio drama. The story itself is of like magical and maybe supernatural like origins, but as far as the characters, they wear different forms of Lolita. And so you want to think about your genre and how that's going to affect the format for your media. For example, if you're going to be doing comedy, how do you think will best serve your comedy like skit? Do you feel like you need to write a funny book, a comic strip? Do you feel like you want to express this through a YouTube video or creating a TikTok videos? So all of those things can kind of inform what your end product is going to be. Yeah.
And with format, you also need to start thinking about what segments you want to have in your medium and how they're arranged. Two pieces of media may have completely different segments and arrangement. For example, a have tea with me video is going to be very different from a brand review video, whereas the first is going to be more conversational, more off the cuff, whereas a brand review video was probably going to be a lot more organized, a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? Aligned in you're starting with one thing, you go to the next. It doesn't, it's more like talking at your audience, whereas a have tea with me video is going to be talking with your audience.
Yeah, we're talking at you right now. This is the segments for that. But anyway, inspiration-wise, you want to make note of everything that resonates with you within and without your genre. Again, if you were going to do a more comedy genre, maybe you want to incorporate things from an action series or some comedy and romance or comedy and something supernatural oriented. I see the good voice. But yeah, so you kind of want to keep the other genres in mind, even if you're not going to be primarily dabbling in them.
And it's totally cool to get inspiration or to look towards normie media as well. When we started creating O-kei podcast, we took a lot of inspiration from our favorite shows like My Brother and Me and Hello from the Magic Tavern. And we really dissected what the format was for those shows, and outside of the personalities that are brought onto the show, what makes them popular. And we discovered that they are segmented into very digestible chunks. So they have an opener, one big chunk, a little mid-roll, a second big chunk, and then a closer. And specifically with Hello from the Magic Tavern, they have a little do-do-do-do, a little twill that tells you, hey, we're wrapping up. Maybe it's a good time to like start transitioning to something else, like look for a different episode or like start a different craft at this time because you've been working on this one for like an hour while you've been listening to us.
And the possibilities are endless. For my hardcore comic, I like to combine inspirations from JFashion and pro wrestling. All of the fights are basically going to be inspired by types of pro wrestling matches. But the characters are all going to be wearing JFashion, and the different factions are going to be separated into different styles. So that's kind of like my personal example.
You can consider combining genres that are completely out of left field for any sort of fashion. My hot take is that combining sci-fi with JFashion gives you Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, and it's just a very rudimentary Y2K style of like Uchu-Kei meets Y2K, and I love it. It's wonderful. And you can also think about JFashion from different eras. Think about how you can combine JFashion with traditional Japanese fashion. How can you combine current Japanese fashion trends with older Japanese fashion trends? Or how can you combine JFashion with normie fashion from different eras? They're just within eras of itself. There are so many possibilities to think about.
And then you want to consider whether JFashion is going to be the backdrop or the main focal point of your project. For example, we have the book Magic Mutant Nightmare Girl, which has JFashion as a secondary to the main storyline, contributing to the general aesthetic of the book. And the plot is basically a Harajuku JFashionista battles mutants and social anxiety by teaming up with an elite group of outcasts. So
relatable.
Yeah, right. So in this, it's probably not going to be about J fashion culture, but one of the characters is wearing it. And but for our podcast, for example, it's definitely J fashion is the main focal point. We're just putting it into a audio format.
And then once you find your inspiration and your medium, it is important to find your drive. You need to find what pushes you to continue to create, what can get you through those really low creativity days. What is your why for creating what you want to create? Because there are days that are hard and there are days that you don't want to get started. But that drive is what keeps you going, and it's what pushes you through those really hard days.
Yeah, and your drive can come from anywhere. Don't underestimate the source. It could be if you're working with friends to have a good time creating something with your friends. It could be about your family, or it can come from just an overall need to explore and create something on your own. So don't underestimate where these forms of inspiration for your drive can hit you. And then once you do find what it is that's going to drive you, you're going to want to put it into a easy to repeat phrase or mantra, so that when you are in those low moments, you can easily pull out that phrase, or if you have it written down, you can see your mission statement of why you're doing this and why you're going to continue working on the project into the future.
My drive for creating O-kei podcast and for starting it with Kamilah and pitching it to her was that I was told in a lecture during my second year of college by a guest speaker that if there's a piece of media that you want to consume, but it's not there yet, you need to go and make it yourself, because you can't expect anyone else to make it for you. On the other hand, if you want it, then most likely other people want it too, but they just don't know how to get started. They don't have the time or the resources to get started. So if you want it, you have the time, the resources, and the know-how, go and do it. And that is what really drove me. I was like, I can do this. I know how to do this. And there isn't a JFashion podcast yet. So I'm going to go and do it. I also really wanted to make a mark on the audio industry and really show that fashion media does not have to be strictly visual, and that the audio industry is dominated by primarily masculine people. And I wanted to show that, feminine people and feminine hobbies can be in the audio industry and can make a mark and be desirable to others.
My main drive for continuing to do this podcast with Hayden and agreeing to do it. First of all, I really love the idea. I love podcasts. So when Hayden brought it up, I was like, oh my gosh, I always wanted to make a podcast. But I love the idea of having a recorded history of the community that's outside of YouTube videos and Instagram photos. I feel like the Instagram photos and the YouTube videos, they're a very polished form of what our J fashion is and who's in the community. Whereas when we do these interviews with people who could be also making YouTube videos, I just feel like you get to see real, genuine interactions and get to ask questions or hear about aspects of the J fashion lifestyle that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. So yeah, I really wanted that to be there just in case anybody else is trying to talk about this in the future. And then the love of JFashion storytelling from different perspectives. I am a Black woman who's asexual in the JFashion community, and that's going to be a different story compared to someone else who's plus size and has a disability. So I just wanted there to be kind of representation and descriptions of how different people navigate the community.
So once you have your medium, inspiration, drive, and you know what you want to create and you're chomping at the bit to like get there, you got to set a game plan. It's super exciting and you want to go, but you got to like make sure you're doing everything, you're hitting all your bases. So we're going to be covering platforms, marketing and graphics, collaborations, and monetizations in this section. When it comes to platforms, do as much research as possible. Oh my God, because there are so many freaking platforms out there. It is ridiculous.
Yes, like the first result does not always equal the best platform. You also have to consider where your audience is, and do you want the audience to be more general or JFashion specific? When I was considering like, okay, what should I do with my comic in the future? I've already done a print version of my comic, which is awesome because it definitely got out to my fans or people who already like, I don't know, are fans of hard decor and things like that. But if I were to put it on a platform like Webtoons, that's a more general audience, and that can be more live feedback. That could mean other people who are not necessarily already in my reach can see the comic as well. So you want to like think about that, your end goal when you're choosing these platforms. And an older audience may be on one site while a younger audience may be on another site. So you got to figure out like just where your audience is.
And your platform may depend heavily on your medium, your genre, and or your format. For example, just with videos, if you want to do a skit, like a comedy skit, it may garner more views or interactions on TikTok than it would on YouTube, just because TikTok is kind of formulated for those sorts of videos already. YouTube also tends to be a little harder to gain reach on, and TikTok can garner a more general audience just because of how the algorithm is. With YouTube, in order to get things into your algorithm, the user needs to physically either look up something, like a video, or click on a recommended video. Whereas with TikTok, it's just scrolling. And if the user spends even just 3 seconds more on a video, then those types of videos are going to get put into their feed. And just a quick double tap is going to put that video into their algorithm more really quickly.
Thank you, Sean. I'm loving all of your comments. Yes. Interact with us. Yeah, and so with So Pretty Very Rotten, they casted a wide net by debuting as a book as opposed to a zine. A book being sold in Barnes and Nobles is going to garner a more general audience than a zine. So with a zine, it's going to be more about the JFashion community or the niche. And I think they did a good job at like attracting a general audience by having it more be like these essays that are formed to give an outsider a look into our world.
And that's very interesting that you mentioned that, Petite Madeline. They say that they've had more luck on YouTube than on TikTok. I would love to hear about what you put in tags or on both platforms, and see if like maybe we can help you get your reach out there on TikTok, because algorithms are weird. I hate them.
Yeah, or the type of video you're doing. If you're trying to do more educational stuff, sometimes being on YouTube is better, because then somebody can search up like, oh, how to do this, or how to get into the Lolita community, or how to do this thing. And then on TikTok, it's more about like kind of funny things. Yeah, wham bam, like these like really quick things. So it's like the way that you make the content has to be different than how you would do it on YouTube. Like, it's not just a short YouTube video. That's not what TikTok is, you know? So it's new. It is kind of weird. So you got to kind of like feel it out.
And once you have your platform decided, you need to start thinking about marketing and graphics. Decide how or if JFashion will be involved in your graphics at all. For example, O-kei Podcast has JFashion as its primary medium, or I guess audio is our medium, its primary subject. So we wanted to make it very clear to people who were listening to us that like, we're JFashion. So our icon is heavily inspired by Area Kei and Decora, which is Kamilah and my home styles. So that way it's like popping out at you. All the kawaii kids are like, that's Area Kei, that's Decora. I know what that is. I'm gonna listen to that.
Yeah, exactly. As far as social media goes, you could use platform-specific trends to your advantage. For example, there was the pass the brush trend on TikTok, and a ton of different styles got involved. There was like there was a Black Lolita community one. There was a Decora one. There was probably like there was a goth one, definitely. So a bunch of different styles got into that and got a bunch of views and attention for doing that. And then on Facebook and Instagram, you could try delving into memes like the King of the Hill Lolita memes.
And then you need to try to decide if or how your aesthetic will play into who picks up your content and who sticks around. Again, bringing up So Pretty Very Rotten versus another JFashion book I found called Japanese Fashion Cultures, Dress and Gender in Contemporary Japan. So Pretty Very Rotten, their cover has an illustration on it. There's some bright colors. So that sort of cover is going to appeal more towards people who are interested in more feminine things, people who are interested in manga, comics, and anime, just because of them having an illustration for their cover. Whereas Japanese fashion cultures, the subject matter is in the title. The cover is photography as opposed to illustration. It's more sleek and more polished. So that is, and it's overall just a more studious journalistic piece of writing. So it's going to be appealing more towards general fashion enthusiasts and people who are looking to understand more about the subcultures, all the various subcultures, as opposed to people who already know what JFashion is.
Yeah, like Kawaii Riot, Kawaiifies graphics, captions, and includes JFashion in all that they do. Since they're kind of putting together activism for a JFashion audience, I think that totally makes sense. The founder, Jade of Jaded Island of Kawaii Riot, made this Decora Decora acronym that spells out donate, educate, challenge, observe, reshare, act, which was really awesome to include a word that's common in the JFashion community, and also actionable steps to be more involved in activism, specifically during the Black Lives Matter movement.
And once you have started creating content, sorry, I bumped my mic, you can start thinking about how you want to collaborate with people, if you want to collaborate with people. If you are going to, we encourage you to try to push the boundaries of what collaboration looks like. Try to find new and unique ways to collaborate with others, and try to push the boundaries of collaboration and surprise your audience.
Yeah, if you want to do collaborations, you should definitely feel encouraged to do so, even if it seems like the two things might not go together. For my hard decora like fashion show, some of them I've had music done by Afro Shoujo and Pinky, which kind of works as a backdrop to a more traditional form of showing off J fashion. I thought it was an interesting way of just using more people in the J fashion community into more aspects of my art.
And you can even go from things that are intangible to tangible. For example, Poovy Fell collaborated with Lovely Lore to make the Slay Lovely pins, which bridge the gap between the intangible YouTube videos into tangible merch in collaboration with Poovy Fell as an artist. And again, not everyone needs to collaborate, but it is really fun. It can help expand your reach, and it helps to bridge the gap between different genres and mediums.
And there's monetization too that you have to think about. Some hosting sites have monetizing built in. If you're going to be creating something like a webcomic or a podcast that's on the monthly or weekly basis, you're constantly putting out content. Some people do things like a Patreon or a Kickstarter. Patreon is great if you are able to create outside exclusive content monthly, so that people can subscribe and be interacting with you at least on the monthly basis. And then some people at a certain point of their project compile their project together in some sort of tangible form, and then they go over to Kickstarter to fund those like products and end goals. You can also sell merch on another website, and kind of just see what sort of format works for the type of media that you create.
And these different crowdfunding sites are really, really nice, but they do require a lot of thought to be put into them. With Kickstarter and Patreon, if you got to think about like different tiers. If you want to have those different tiers, how are you going to separate, make the divide between what you are releasing? So for example, with our Patreon, we have a $1 a month tier that allows our patrons to submit questions to our guest. That way they get to know who is going to be on the show before anyone else even knows what the episode's about. And they get to send in questions to the guest that they might not be able to have told them or asked them in any other way. And then our second level, which is $3 a month, gives them access to our bonus content. And with these tiers, especially if it is an ongoing project, once you start making bonus content or physical merchandise, it becomes a lot of work. And you got to think about, okay, how much work am I going to be able and willing to put into this? Patreon is really nice and I really enjoy it, but it does require a lot of upkeep, like bonus content monthly. It's like a whole nother interview that we have to, that I have to edit and post, and then community posts as well on Patreon, making sure that you're keeping your community and audience engaged with you. It's another level and it's another aspect that you have to keep up with.
Yeah, and you want to be cognizant of your audience's values while considering monetization. Typically, the J fashion community values quality over quantity, uniqueness, and sustainability. So maybe don't rep for Shein or Fashion Nova. No shade towards them.
Little shade, little.
But that might not be what the brand you want to link up with when your audience values sustainability, for example. But if you're hitting a more general audience, maybe think about creating things or joining up with brands that have really accessible and not as expensive items to get started with.
And again, it's not necessary to monetize. There are ways to self-publish and just to get everything one and done, but it is just something that is good to think about before creating content. And we've been making O-kei podcast for about 4 years now. So we have a lot of personal experiences and a lot of hurdles that we've had to go through and figure out how to get over. So we just wanted to share a little bit about our personal experiences and give y'all some advice that we have. For me personally, when I was given the advice to just make the thing, I was really overeager and I was just like so excited. I wanted to do the thing right now. And because I was super overeager, I bit off way more than I could chew. And there was some timing issues in just like my personal life with community events and with how the community was interacting with each other, to a point where it just became like overwhelming. So my advice is that like, I know it's exciting. And once you have the idea of like, oh, this is so perfect and this is going to make for like something so great and amazing, just be sure to go slow and to take a breath and to just take a chill pill and relax and be sure that you are biting off enough but not too much, because it can quickly become overwhelming when you have all these things around you that you have to take care of. Be sure that you plan holistically and to be consistent, and try to break things into smaller portions, and that can help you with, excuse me, that can help you with planning holistically and being consistent. When you are making something that is very big, takes a lot of work that you have to put into it, it can be really overwhelming to just get started because there's so much that you have to do. So for me, because it can be really hard for me to get started, I have since implemented a schedule of working on the podcast for a couple hours a day, then taking a break for a couple hours, and then get started on it again. Working on it little by little every day has broken things up into much easier, smaller chunks that are much more manageable.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely identify with the biting off more than I can chew. I seem to be in love with doing and becoming a part of long-term projects. I have many long-term projects that I'm working on, and some of them are due at like different times, and some of them I want to like ramp up. And it's just that like you have to make a conscious choice of like, so when am I going to work on this? Like have a schedule put out of like, okay, when am I working on these things? How long does it truly take me to get one of these items done? And then you can really see like, oh, I can fit in another project into this slot, or I can automate some of the things that I do with some of my other projects in order to make more space. Yeah, so I definitely ended up like having to like rethink everything and how I'm going to fulfill orders with hard decora and how I'm going to continue to make these comics on time for both like Hard Decora and Emptying the Clips. And then also with the podcast, we do record sometimes twice or even 4 times a month if we're thinking about when we break up the openers and the interviews, and that can take hours out of our day and things like that. So we have to make sure that we build in the time for that when we choose to take on other responsibilities. And then I also need to be more cognizant of marketing campaigns when we're going to put something out, the time of year, the season, the time of day, the day of the week, because when you make a sticker pack or whatever, are you going to make a big deal about it? Is this a big deal? Do you need a countdown? Do you need to be showing a little bit of ankle, before you show the big project? Or is this a smaller sort of project where you're just going to like put out the stickers? You're going to say, hey, it's up on my site. If you want them, you can get them. And then you'll continue to talk about them even after it's been up on your site, instead of making it a big countdown. I made the mistake of just like not really considering that, and then I would have a lot of anxiety around putting out things because I'm just like, oh, I made the thing, but I don't know, am I just putting this out, or did I do this right, or something like that. If I make a plan beforehand, then I'll know like what step I'm at in the plan, and just have a clear like, oh, what did work and what did not work. And also creating a buffer if you're doing something that's long-term and episodic, so that you won't have a kind of a bunching up of things and a mental breakdown when you're not going to be able to hit the deadline. With Emptying the Clips, we've definitely had to be like, hey, there's no comic on this day because we're still working on it. But for some reason, we couldn't get started on a buffer. Every time we said, yeah, we're going to make this comic now, we're going to make a little buffer, we're going to make like 6 before the thing, we would just keep pushing it off. So it's just like, we're putting out one like next month, and that's what we're doing. And that looming deadline kind of got us jump started. So I knew going in that like, yep, this is going to be messy, but but this needs to be out there. So so definitely consider that.
It's a matter of finding out what works for you and what helps you. Sometimes that looming deadline, like on your butt, it's like, okay, like I get it, I got to do the thing. So sometimes it can be helpful, other times it can be anxiety inducing.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So for suggested listening, since we're done talking at you, we've got a few episodes that we think will supplement a lot of the things that we have already been talking about with creatives that have already made innovative JFashion content. So we've got episode 16, JFashion and doll customization with Delightful. Episode 24, Modeling in America with Sean Chong Umeda. And we have episode 35, Awareness and Activism with Jade, aka Jaded Island.
There's also episode 36, which is JFashion and LARP with Jordana, aka Moss Badger. Yes, it you, Sean. And episode 40, which is JFashion within music with Afro Shoujo and Pinky. All of these, again, are available on our website, OK-podcast.com. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify. Not YouTube yet. I just started uploading those. So eventually YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud. And with that, thank you all for attending. We have about 20-ish, 15, 20 minutes left. So we're going to open it up to questions and answers. And again, just don't forget to hit us up.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to wait patiently for questions. Hello, everyone. How's your night been? It's been a fun time. I loved watching the last panel, the snack time. That was so much fun. It was so I got very with Elia Chan. It was very I was hungry, which is a problem because I ate dinner like 4 hours ago.
I had like my dinner all planned out. It was just like, okay, I'm going to eat a poke bowl because I can't get anything on these clothes. I also had like an apron over my clothes inspired by Hayden. That was a great idea. But I was just like, yeah, I don't want to like get stuff on my makeup and everything like that by eating like a hot dog or something. So
Sean asks, what is your favorite platform personally and why? Ooh, Kamilah, if you know this one off the top of your head, you can go first.
What is my favorite platform personally? I guess I love using Instagram. Now I feel like I'm old by saying I love Instagram. I'm not much of like a video person. I'm more into like the pictures and illustrations and things like that. And I think that's the place for that. Though I'm looking forward to exploring making illustrated TikToks. Yeah, like this month, next month, I'm definitely going to be doing that. I'm so excited to do it. Every time I see a TikTok, I'm just like, I can't wait to make this illustrated. So yeah, so Instagram's my favorite right now.
I think also Instagram, just because it helps me get inspired when I don't have a whole lot of inspiration, or when I'm struggling with like trying to coordinate things. It just like helps me personally. I am I would say my guilty pleasure is TikTok right now. For a while I was a curmudgeon about it and I was like, I don't like TikTok. It's weird. I just don't like it. But I've been getting into it more and more and seeing everyone doing like the pass the brush and transformation scenes. I'm like, I want to do that. In terms of like for O-kei podcast, I think I really enjoy Instagram as well as TikTok. We just started our TikTok recently and we have one video. Oh my gosh. But just seeing like the number get bumped up whenever someone watches a video, I'm like, you're doing the thing. It's a little bump of serotonin for me. And I really enjoy it, but we get a lot more interaction out of Instagram, making use of Instagram stories. Oh my gosh, we just finally dipped our toe into Instagram stories recently and got so much interaction. And it was like, oh my gosh, our community is here. Like we're finally doing the thing. So that is my personal favorite for the podcast. It is my birthday today. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 23. Sean also asks,
I mean, how does it feel like for you, Sean? Like, you know.
I don't consider myself an icon by in any means.
Yeah, that's like totally weird to think about like that. Just like, oh, I have an icon. It's like, that's scary.
Thank you everyone for the happy birthday wishes. I got flowers today from my parents and that was a lovely little surprise. I watch a lot of TikToks, but I don't feel as connected with people there, which is why I like Instagram more. I get that feeling. I understand that. I think that kind of comes with the format of it, just because it is so quick, one thing after another. It's like unless you take the time to like comment or to like reach out to the person, you're not going to get a whole lot of interaction or you're not going to get a whole lot of interaction otherwise. Yeah, I definitely feel Instagram is. Oh, what I learned recently about Instagram in other countries is that Instagram in Russia is more of like a blogging format. Whereas Instagram in the US and Canada, in predominantly English-speaking countries, it's like, oh, here's a picture and a fun little caption, maybe an outfit rundown, goodbye. At least in the JFashion community and in the general sphere of Instagram, it's like, again, a little caption, maybe some ads, maybe a thing of like, I've been feeling XYZ way. How are you doing? But in Russia, I was told by a coworker like a year or two ago that they use Instagram as a way to blog, and it is more of a personal experience, and it has a lot more interactions that way, which is really interesting for me to discover and to learn just how these different formats are being used in different ways through language barriers.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like a vibrant JFashion community, like internationally too, on Twitter. You know, I'm just not that active on Twitter because I don't have like I don't have that much to like talk about as far as just like, yeah, you know what, bugged me today, or you know what interesting thought I had today. Like I don't really like have those things. I guess I just, maybe if I do, I'll just text a friend about it or something. Or tell Simon. There's just a lot of like, Simon's my husband. I just blurt things out to my partner about like, just like, oh, this thing. So yeah.
Madeline, I'm a late 90s kid, and I feel old just because I'm always late to social media. The trends. I got into Twitter really, really late, like just in the past year when the pandemic hit. I was like, Facebook isn't doing it for me. Instagram isn't doing it for me. I need another form of keeping in touch with people. So I got onto Instagram. So I get
onto Twitter, right?
Oh yes, got onto Twitter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I get the feeling of just like getting into like just getting into things late and being like, what's happening? And everyone is like doing their own thing, and it's like, hello?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I keep trying to get into Twitter and I just like cannot. I just can't. But I think there's a chance for TikTok if like I can make it about like drawing and doing things like that. I don't like the pressure of being like, I need to be funny and stuff. I don't like that. But if it's
we're not comedians.
right, exactly. Like if I have like more of a I don't know, illustration feel to it, then at least like I feel like my characters could be funny and it's not like about me having to say these lines like perfectly lining up with the sound and yeah, exactly. I'm just like, that's too scary. I'm just gonna have a character do it. VTubing, that would be totally cool. That seems like a lot to invest in as far as what we found out about it. Listen to our Patreon content if you want to know more about VTubing. But but yeah, I'm just like, huh. And I'm like an early 90s kid.
Bless you.
Oh. I'm an early 90s kid too. I'm like, I'm 29. Like I was seeing like Hayden being all like, and I graduated from Columbia and what was it, 2019
2020, just last year.
2020, and I'm like, I graduated in 2014. I'm just like, oh well, I'm old.
Oh my gosh, Sean, you're an Aquarius like me. Yeah, it's what's even weirder is now like there are high schoolers that are like, yeah, I was born in like 2005, and I'm like, that's weird. You don't have to do any math there. That's so easy.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to just like do the mental math of like, what year is it? How old am I? It's 20. It's easy. It's so much easier for them.
Early 19. Well, my gosh, we're in the 1900s now. It's just like, oh yes, in the late 1900s, there was a style called decora. Some people still wear this. I graduated in 2006. Y'all calm down. Oh man.
The late 20s, early 30s in JFashion is the new like teenager.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't end up feeling like when I'm talking to you, Hayden, like you're like, oh, you're so far away from me or anything like that. It's just when you like mention things like I graduated in 2020, I'm just like, oh.
No, like kind of the same for you, but like backwards. And also not for me. Like my when I talk about the podcast and I talk about Kamilah to my parents, when I first like introduced them, I told them, yeah, I'm making a podcast with a friend of mine. And I told them, oh yeah, Kamilah's husband. And they said, Kamilah's husband? And I was like, yeah. They're like, how old is she? I'm like, she's like 28. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, like my friends all look like babies. I know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes, the different age ranges definitely make for a lot of varying experiences. Actually, what I would love to promote it at this time, those different stages in life are very interesting, especially when like a lot of the J fashion community is late 20s, early 20s to early 30s at this point. We recently did an episode that should be coming out this weekend, if I get it finished in time, about being a parent in J fashion. And we felt that was a whatchamacallit. Yeah, that was a topic that hadn't been discussed a whole lot within J fashion and within J fashion media. So we interviewed our friend Christina, aka Cybergirl, aka the Rainbow Lady, to talk about her experience with parenthood in J fashion, and her son Enzo, who's a sweet little baby.
Oh, it would be interesting to do like a dating while in J fashion topic. Get the singles in. Oh man.
And I just want to bring it back up if like anyone has any thoughts on like media. If anyone has any thoughts about J fashion media or like questions on how to combine media, if you need like some inspiration, we are more than happy to give that to you. If you're like, I don't know what platform to use, or I love this, but I don't know how to combine it, or I want to do this, but I don't know how to make it like unique, ask us. We would love to hear. We just want to let you know that is open as well. But yes, it is. Dating in J fashion is interesting. Let's see.
Spending my money on nail perch. ADC really hard to grow, not on someone else. I'm just like reading these comments about the dating. Maybe we should ask that on one of our Instagram questions or something. That would be funny, just to get people's input in that. Because I'm just like, oh, dating and oh my gosh. I just felt like I already look really, I guess, young for my age. So when I was single, I just felt like I was overlooked by all the people my age because they thought I was younger than them. And I'm just like, no, we could be, I'm an adult. But yeah.
So, Petite Madeline asked advice on how not to pigeonhole yourself too much when making J fashion content. That's very interesting because I feel like with J fashion in and of itself is already very niche. And I think that that is a reason why we've been like having a lot of success is that we have a very close-knit community. I would say with pigeonholing, it depends on the genre that you're going for. And I would say don't be afraid to try dipping your toes in other genres and mediums. Like if you're going for comedy, don't be afraid to do something that is like J Fashion SNL or stand-up J Fashion. You know, there are all different sorts of different formats within just comedy. And there are so many different things you can do within just that genre of comedy. And the same goes for making videos. I would say really try to have your fingers in all the pies, just like whatever gets you going, whatever makes you giggle, whatever you enjoy, like try it out. You may find out that you're really, really good at it.
And then like even just like feeling like, oh, okay, if you start to feel a little pigeon, like a little bit in a rut, you know, see where your interests are pulling you. There's no reason why you can't pivot, you know, in the middle of working on a project, being like, oh, okay, we did a lot of this sort of content and now we're going to be adding in these sorts of segments into our work. What do you think about this? So you can don't be afraid to just like mix in something new after a while.
I feel like there's with like content creation culture, there's a lot of pressure to know exactly what you're doing right away and stick with it. But being able to adjust and figure out what works and doesn't work is very important. For example, when we first started out, we would do like fashion reviews and we would try to describe different releases a la Lolita updates. And we realized, you know, this really isn't working for us. We don't really enjoy this. So we took that segment out and we replaced it with like more general news and updates. So don't be afraid to assess what is working for you and what doesn't, and to switch gears. I feel like all J fashion comedy would just be about like trying to figure out how to use the restroom in like a way that doesn't ruin all your stuff. It's like, I need to wash my hands and I have candy all the way to my elbows. Where am I gonna put everything?
Oh my gosh. Or like, I mean, I have these like really long nails and like comedy is just me trying to like open a soda can. It's like, I can't. I usually just get a knife and just like, all right. Or Simon, please help.
So we have a couple minutes left before we need to wrap up. And I just want to let everyone know that we are going to be doing the next panel in at, let's see, it's 11:15 our time, 12:15 Eastern, 9:15. No, 9. I don't know. You do the time zone math. There's too many of them.
These maths.
But we'll be taking a 15-minute break, and then our next panel is going to be about how to be a J fashion lifestyler, overcoming the archetype. So we would love to see you all in that one. It's also just going to be on the J Fashion On Demand Twitch. So just stay tuned, and we will be back shortly. Thank you all for your questions. It's COVID time. Time is an illusion. Yes, time does not exist. So yeah, we would love to see you all there. Thank you, Sean. Thank you everyone for coming and asking questions. For interacting. It was wonderful, and we will see you at the next one.